Hey, what's up, YouTube? It's Richie from Boston. It's the 6th, it's October, and it's 2025. And it's astonishing to me how many things are happening all at one time while everybody's looking the other direction. I just don't understand it. I don't get it, but I guess it is what it is. You know what I mean? At any rate, what is up, Granny Page? Is that right? I hope it is. Every knee shall bow. What is up? LDD, what is up from Ecuador? Lisa D, what's up? Jalopy Farmer, I won't. There was somebody here from France a minute ago. Eleftherios, I don't know how to say that. And yeah, if you're sharing links, YouTube automatically blocks it, so don't. Plus, I don't know who you are, so don't share links, but whatever. At any rate, my favorite mod and the person that runs the Richie from Boston fan page YouTube channel, Anna. What is up, Anna Banana? It's amazing that this woman can literally find videos of mine faster than I can with just me saying, hey, remember that time I was talking about some conspiracy theory? And within 20 minutes, it'll pop right up, which is crazy. And my ear is still junk. I think I blew my ear out completely for good. But you can listen to this or you can skip it. But here's how my weekend went. I went from the West Coast all the way through the Texas Panhandle into Louisiana and then eventually up into Arkansas. And I wanted to find a state park to camp at for the night. And I get to the state park, and apparently it's the 8th largest diamond mines, diamonds, girl's best friend in the world. In Arkansas, and they didn't have any place to stay. So it's almost nightfall. I drive off into the wilderness in Arkansas, and I find a place in the middle of nowhere. I drive down this road for about 4 miles into the woods. I am completely alone. It's dark. Spiders the size of dinner plates, not the size of dinner plates, but this big around. I get out of my truck. I'm wearing swimming trunks for whatever reason, and sandals, open-shoed sand, like no socks or anything. I get out of my truck. I instantly step into an ant hill that I don't see. And the reason I know I did that is because all of a sudden, ants start lighting me up. They're up and down my leg. They're all over me. I'm bumming. This sucks. So I deal with that. And then later on, I noticed that I got these little welts all over me. And I'm thinking, I don't remember the ants biting me all over my hand, but, it's got to be from the ants because when they were biting me, I could feel it. You see what I'm saying? Well, it turns out I also got poison ivy. So I got bit by ants and then poison ivy, and then I got woke up in the middle of the night around 4 a.m. by some screaming thing out in the woods, which I don't know what that was, but whatever. And the funny thing about poison ivy is when you don't know you have poison ivy, you get it all over yourself. You know what I mean, fellas? Like all over yourself. And I still don't know. It took me a day to figure out I had poison ivy. I was chalking it up to getting bit by ants. And I'm like, what is going on, man? I get bit by ants. I got poison ivy. And now I got some sort of a venereal disease. And I haven't had sex with anybody in almost 8 years. Again, poison ivy all over the place. So I had a pretty rough weekend, and yet here I am still right now. And as you can see, I am in that same luxurious hotel room in Kentucky right now. So there, as they say, is that at any rate. It's crazy. It's crazy. It's crazy. I do this video, and I'm watching everybody else do the videos talking about the director of the War Department, Hegseth, addressing all 800 commanders generals, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Now, originally, when I heard this, I'm thinking to myself, that's crazy. Whatever he's got to do, he can do it without getting everybody at Quantico. Everyone doesn't need to be in one location that everyone knows about. It sounded like a setup. It sounded like another in a long line of false flag psychological operations, like Sandy Hook, 9/11, Charlie Kirk. Everything is them. We live in the Hegelian dialectic. Thesis, antithesis. We live in it constantly. And it turns out that he had a greater plan going on, and people were telling me about this plan or the result of the plan face to face. I was meeting up with guys that are still in the military. They're not just former military dudes, they're active. And they were saying it's not Jade Helm, dude. It's not Jade Helm. All right. Jade Helm was completely different. I love how people Jade Helm was the first thing I ever got in my truck in Massachusetts and drove to Texas to see what the internet was talking about. Because all the internet ever does is talk, but it never leaves the house. All right. Jade Helm was training AI back then. They had special forces operators moving around in the communities, and their job was to try to hide from AI. And AI was trying to detect them using only the cameras that were already available in the community. Stoplight cameras, security cameras, ATM cameras, gas station cameras, etc. Man, this is bad. This is bad right now. I just got in the shower. All right. There you go. At any rate, and I shouldn't watch the comments when I'm talking. All right, let's get into this. I just posted this, and if you want to check it out, this is what I've been doing while I've been on the road. No offense, but I don't need pork. Meeting up with subscribers. This is a 12-minute video that I took as I sat down with these people at their off-grid compound. It's a pretty good video because I just pulled it up and I thought, you know what? I'm going to post it on Patreon. And yes, I have a Patreon. I never talk about it, but there it is right there. And I thought it was a good example of what exactly it is that I'm doing when I'm always on the road. You can't communicate via emails, text, cell phones, videos. You got to go do it face to face. Pretty much that's all there is to it. And I'll tell you what, the amount of people that have been not only buying Confusion in Christianity and Confusion in the Cosmos, the amount of people that I've handed this book to is astonishing because they're so grateful for this. And then they leave reviews and they're saying things like I was saying when I first read it, because I read this book 4 times. This book is about the same amount of pages as the Bible. It's a crazy, crazy amount of reading, and I actually did it, which is something I don't really do. I listen to audiobooks. And speaking of audiobooks, I actually offered to put that book on I offered to read it so it could be an audiobook. Is that right? All right. I'm not in my greatest form right now. It's kind of hard when you can only hear out of one ear. You know what I mean? But I'll do what I can. At any rate, remember when the Charlie Kirk thing occurred and I said, Charlie Kirk didn't matter to me, to be honest. I knew who he was. But I also knew that if he had a platform as big as he had and he was reaching as many people as he possibly was and blah, 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 that there was a lot of wacky things going on with it. I didn't look into it whatsoever at all. And I said, it doesn't matter. One person on Earth got killed. And all of a sudden it was a media snowstorm. It was crazy. It was absolutely everywhere and still is to this very minute. I said back then, I don't care who did it, why they did it, whatever. Somebody got shot in America. Wow. That is not a new activity. It happens every day, pretty much every hour or even more of every day. What I said was, what will the quid pro quo be? It'll wipe Epstein right off the table. Trump, it'll wipe it right off the table. And it did. I said it was going to allow them to put troops in the streets while people are too busy looking down the rabbit hole of Charlie Kirk. And I said it'll allow people to forget about Israel, let them continue to do their mass blood rituals and secretly buy up half of the mainstream media, because that's exactly what Larry Ellison's doing. He's not just buying TikTok, he's buying, I think it's 80% of the mainstream media. So it'll be a Zionist-controlled platform for all. If you're above the age of 12 and you're on TikTok, you got issues, man. You got issues because you're falling right into the machine. TikTok was made to steal your time. You can't, there's a lot of things on earth you can do, but you can never get time back. Time is the most important thing that you have, and it's so very limited, and you don't know when you run out of time. And things like TikTok suck it right up. It's all in the algorithm. I've shown you the patents they've been working on since the day I was born, where they can control you with frequencies, they can control you with colors, and they can control you with flashing lights. Remember we were kids and there was cartoons and there was no warnings ahead of time saying, warning, this cartoon may cause seizures with flashing lights and such. That was a new thing. That was a new technology that they started openly using. So bad times are coming, and it's all occurring right now. And I showed you this recently, and I'll show it to you again. The military has decided to stop worrying about China, and that's a really bad picture, isn't it? Stop worrying about China and worrying about Iran and worrying about Israel and the Middle East and all these other places. And they're focusing all their attention on the homeland. The Pentagon is going to prioritize the homeland, meaning they're going to prioritize North and South America so Trump can solidify one of 10 kingdoms. And America, North, South, Canada, that's all. We talked about this when he first became president because he already started putting feelers up. But now, I mean, they're actually doing this. So we're the country that starts war with absolutely everybody all the time for any reason, no matter what, is now just going to stop doing that. And they're going to start prioritizing on the homeland, the Western Hemisphere. Now, why in the world will we build up a military like ours to suddenly turn all of our weapons inward? When have you ever seen anything? This came out 5 days after China came out and showed off all of their new military hardware and showed off all their troops, because China has, what is it? I don't even know how many troops they have, but our troops, they have, I think it's, I don't even know. I should have looked this up, but I didn't because I got 40 tabs open. Stand by 1 minute. You know what? Here. Listen to this real quick while I Google this, because now I'm annoyed. Cancel. Can't hear, which is very annoying. Listen to this real quick.
Was born in 1939 in a suburb of Moscow. He was the son of a high-ranking Soviet Army officer. He was educated in the elite schools inside the Soviet Union and became an expert in Indian culture and Indian languages. He had an outstanding career with Novosti, which was the, and still is, I should say, the press arm or the press agency of the Soviet Union. It turns out that this is also a front for the KGB. He escaped to the West in 1970 after becoming totally disgusted with the Soviet system, and he did this at great risk to his life. He certainly is one of the world's outstanding experts on the subject of Soviet propaganda and disinformation and active measures. Well, you spoke several times before about ideological subversion. That is a phrase that I'm afraid some Americans don't fully understand.
Just real quick, this was 39 years ago that this ex-KGB guy defected from the KGB, came to America, and became born again. This was almost 40 years ago that he warned us about this.
The Soviets use the phrase ideological subversion. What do they mean by it?
Ideological subversion is the slow process which we call either ideological subversion or active measures, активные мероприятия in the language of the KGB, or psychological warfare. What it basically means is to change the perception of reality of every American to such an extent that despite of the abundance of information, no one is able to come to sensible conclusions in the interests of defending themselves, their families, their community, and their country. It's a great brainwashing process which goes very slow, and it's divided in 4 basic stages. The first one being demoralization. It takes from 15 to 20 years to demoralize.
Hey, real quick, I don't know who you are. I'll just call you Jerkoff NJ17. Googling something is not using AI. And you even saying that just shows how ignorant you are, but at least you got my attention, okay? You happy? There you go. Googling is not using AI. Jerkoff. Thank you.
Nation. Why that many years? Because this is the minimum number of years which requires to educate 1 generation of students in the country of your enemy, exposed to the ideology of the enemy. In other words, Marxism, Leninism ideology is being pumped into the soft heads of at least 3 generations of American students without being challenged or counterbalanced by the basic values of Americanism, American patriotism. The demoralization process in the United States is basically completed already. For the last 25 years, actually it's overfulfilled, because demoralization now reaches such areas where previously not even Comrade Andropov and all his experts would even dream of such a tremendous success. Most of it is done by Americans to Americans, thanks to lack of moral standards. As I mentioned before, exposure to true information does not matter anymore. A person who was demoralized is unable to assess true information. The facts tell nothing to him. Even if I shower him with information, with authentic proof, with documents, with pictures, even if I take him by force to the Soviet Union and show him concentration camp, he will refuse to believe it until he is going to receive a kick in his fat bottom. When a military boot crashes his balls, then he will understand, but not before that. That's the tragic of the situation of demoralization. The next stage is destabilization. This time, subverter does not care about your ideas and the patterns of your consumption. Whether you eat junk food and get fat and flabby, doesn't matter anymore. This time, and it takes only from 2 to 5 years to destabilize a nation. It's what matters is essentials: economy, foreign relations, defense systems. And you can see it quite clearly that in some areas, in such sensitive areas as defense and economy, the influence of Marxist-Leninist ideas in the United States is absolutely fantastic. I could never believe it 14 years ago when I landed in this part of the world, that the process will go that fast. The next stage, of course, is crisis. It may take only up to 6 weeks to bring a country to the verge of crisis. You can see it in Central America now. And after crisis, with a violent change of power, structure, and economy, you have so-called the period of normalization. It may last indefinitely.
So most of you have already seen this, and I'm sure you have, because all of us have posted it over the years. I just posted it on one of my backup channels, and we're in that situation right now. We are literally living it right now, because since I mentioned the Charlie Kirk psyop being a complete diversion, it's sad that somebody got killed. But like I said, it happens all the time. This was such a psychological operation. It's insane. They left so many rabbit holes for people to go down, and it's working perfectly. Every YouTuber is talking about Charlie Kirk all day, every day. It's amazing. Charlie Kirk's got his own search button on YouTube. You know what I'm saying? This was all a diversion. I said they were going to put more troops on the street. That's exactly what's happening. And apparently, as of right this very minute, it's happening where I live, because this happened.
Nah, I don't want to say anything, man.
18-year-old Julian Bowers walked out of court this afternoon.
Holy, you didn't see that?
Bowers and 19-year-old William Cantwell, both of Rhode Island, charged with destruction of property, disorderly conduct, and assault and battery on a police officer.
Oh, this guy's slamming a giant pole against him.
Police say the corner of Tremont and Mass Ave is the final stop after other car meetups late Saturday in Middleborough, Randolph, West Roxbury.
Holy.
But the real danger unfolded in the South End.
This isn't about some kids coming into Boston and spinning their tires. This was a staged event where they closed off certain sectors of neighborhoods and streets. They, in our opinion, lured police officers into this gauntlet and then attacked them.
Prosecutors say over 100 people took part in the car meetup. Police did get control of the area after the cruiser was set on fire. Bowers' attorney says police got the wrong suspect.
There was 100 people out there, and 2 people were picked. So
Police get the wrong man?
I don't know what they did, but at this point in time, we need more information.
The good news is there were no injuries reported this weekend. Now, this afternoon in court...
So you see what's happening? They want to put more troops in every single state, and they're going to talk about they're doing it to save us from crime. Well, that's a complete and utter lie. This is going to happen absolutely every place. They've already got troops on the ground in Memphis, Tennessee. They've got troops on the ground in Portland, or heading to Portland, one of the two. And they've got troops heading to Chicago, Illinois. Actually, they're already in Chicago, Illinois, because they've already been shootings. ICE agents have already shot armed people that are effing around and finding out. Stupid people or crisis actors, who even knows at this point, playing right into the role. They need to put troops on the street because that digital ID that they just dropped on everybody in the UK, even though the UK citizens signed a petition to pass a bill to block this of over 3 million. I think it's like 4 million people in the UK said, we ain't having it. And the government said, oh, well. Well, guess what? They got to do that here, and they got to do the old get rid of the dollar thing overnight trick. And in order to do that, they need troops on the ground, which is why all of a sudden our war-loving country, that's all we do is war. We've been at war since the day I was born, and even before that. I was born while my father was in Vietnam. I was born at Fort Belvoir military base in Virginia. I never even met my father, or he never met me till I was almost 2 years old. And I just found that out about a year ago because, you know, why would I want to know my own family history? That's none of my business. You know what I mean? But this stuff affects you completely. And they're doing this. They're doing this. This is happening, and it ain't going to stop till they're done. It isn't going to stop. It's going to keep happening because they've got the resources and the means to do it because they stole everybody's money. They stole everything that was worthy in the United States. They stole all the minerals. They stole all the resources, and they stole all the land. They were supposed to own D.C. and not even all of D.C., the District of Columbia. They were supposed to own a small section of it. And people got fat and lazy and bored and playing video games and using recreational drugs and doing whatever else and watching sports and fighting over Republican and Democrat, this, that, wiffle ball bat. Nobody cared. And here we are. And there is no unringing this bell. There's just preparing for this because this is happening. It's not coming anymore. Everything I've ever talked about for almost 16 years now isn't coming anymore. It's here. It's happening, and it's all around us. This is insanity, man. If you tried to make a video keeping up with everything that's going on right now on Earth, you'd never leave the house, and you'd have to have a whole crew. This is how many soldiers in China. They have 2.035 million active soldiers. We have 1.3 in the United States. That's a lot, but they've got a heck of a lot more people, and they have the ability to, because our government was cool enough to send all of our important manufacturing plants and our ability to manufacture to every other country. Well, China is every other country. China can literally, I looked this all up. China can literally build 9 aircraft carriers in, I think it was a month. 9 aircraft carriers in a month. And it would take the United States a year to build 3. That ain't good. And aircraft carriers are the shit until people start using swarms of drones to take them out. You see what I'm saying? This is incredibly, incredibly crazy. Who cares? You see, I don't understand this. Anyone think, Charlie? Who cares, dude? Who cares? It's irrelevant. It's to get people to do what you're doing, divert people and look the other direction. Everything I said 3 things the day Kirk got shot. 3 things were going to happen, and they've all happened. You know why? Because their plan isn't hidden. You don't need to use a secret decoder ring anymore. They straight up tell you. The revelation of the method and the externalization of the hierarchy are things we had to deal with when we first started making truth videos, because we started making them when they didn't exist yet. We had to look for clues. Now they tell you. It's not a secret. I'm getting a little heated, but it is what it is. China's quality control is crap. Oh, yeah? Really? Really? You think so? Then you better hope that our missiles work, because half of it's got China inside. It's amazing how people talk and don't know what they're saying, man. Again, this is a problem. And this happened after Charlie Kirk got shot, and nobody seems to find it to be a problem. The Pentagon prioritizes Homeland over China. So all of a sudden, North America, we're more of a threat to our government, according to them, than China. When did that happen? I didn't get that memo. When did you guys see that? I mean, all of a sudden, North America, we have to turn our entire military focus on the homeland. The new strategy is to focus on the homeland and Western Hemisphere. And for some reason, we're surrounding a little tiny country like Venezuela with all sorts of massive assets, aircraft carriers, drones, the recon Marines, military of all shapes and sizes are out there. And all that's going to do is allow them to set up stage attacks and blame it on whoever. Oh, that was the cartel. Cartels are attacking America. They're blowing this up. They're blowing that up. Venezuela. You better be ready, because everything I've been telling you is now here. It's here. I can't possibly stress this enough. It's here. We've never seen war in North America since the Civil War. We're going to see it now, because they're telling you all of a sudden our government, I don't know how many times to say this. Our government decided, after China did their show of force, they started flexing their military muscle. Our government's response was 5 days after that parade. Remember the parade? I did a video on it. 5 days after that, the Pentagon's response wasn't, we're going to get more troops. We're going to surround them. We're going to take them out right now. We're going to nuke them. Nah, we're not going to do anything. We're going to just focus on North America. We're going to turn our entire military machine on the people. They're saying it. It's right here. It doesn't need to be decoded. That's their new strategy. Focus on the homeland. They didn't even do this during 9/11. You see what I'm saying? They didn't even do this during 9/11. And by the way, just FYI, in case you didn't know, Trump just signed the state of emergency. So we're still under a state of emergency from 9/11, 24 years ago. We're still under a state of emergency from 24 years ago. An awful lot of things seem to have come and gone since then, but we're still under a state of emergency. Why? Because it opens up a whole bunch of executive orders they can drop on us any time they want, period. And they're going to keep doing attacks in the craziest, wackiest places. A bunch of street racers decided to set up the cops in a gauntlet in Boston and attack them. That seems normal. But let's go back to the Boston Marathon bombing. Remember that old chestnut? Where we actually caught them squirting blood on the crisis actors and the people that got their legs blown off, but we also got pictures of the people with no legs 2 years prior that were ex-military crisis actors and such. What was the first place that ever got locked down? It was Boston. Remember that? Pointing guns at people because they were looking out their windows with cameras, looking in trash barrels for these 2 guys that blew these things up using pressure cookers. Yeah. We proved that using their own video, showing them dumping blood on people, showing them setting off special effects. And guess what? Nothing ever happened. People have proved the means, the method, the finances, where the money went, where the money came from for 9/11, for Sandy Hook, for everything. And guess what? Nothing ever happens. And people are falling for this Charlie Kirk thing. Meanwhile, while everyone's trying to find out if Charlie Kirk was shot with a paintball gun or a drone did it or this did it or that did it. The Pentagon has turned the military on the homeland. That's a problem. That's a problem. People should be concerned about that. And instead, people are talking about the Comet Atlas A32 12 bacon double cheeseburger. There are no comets. There are no UFOs. They're not coming through. We live in a biblical cosmology that doesn't allow for any of that to happen, which is why showing you that book, Confusion in Christianity, was so important, because it points out clear as a bell in the Bible and using science why there ain't no going up. There ain't no going up. And if you own a P900, P950, or P1000, you already know that. You already know that. The stars that are up there are living entities. They're not lights that are millions of miles away whatsoever at all. They're up there, they're in a light, and they appear to be inside of a firmament, exactly like the Bible says. So people that are talking about this, you're just wasting time. All right. And it's still every single solitary day, science comes out with another one, because it turns out that alien genes were found in human DNA. Will you shut up with the ad blocker, man? Seriously, dude? That's great. That's great. All right. I can't show you this because I can't show you this. But according to magazines and science magazines and such, they just discovered human alien DNA in humans, which is just insane, because how come they didn't discover alien DNA in humans when they first discovered the human genome and everything else? And how did they suddenly separate alien DNA when they don't have any alien DNA to test it on? Does that make sense? Do you see what I'm saying? But this is the entire thing they're pushing. And this is why I get pissed off at channels that are supposed to be doing the same thing I'm doing. You tell the truth to the best of your ability. You don't go for views. You don't go for monetization, because it completely ties your hands behind your back. Just spit it and run with it. There's a higher purpose for all this, man. It ain't for popularity. You see what I'm saying? If I wanted to be popular, I would have been at the stupid convention in Kentucky, but I didn't go. Because they told me it was to do one thing, and it turns out they were doing exactly the thing they told me they were trying to stop. They were trying to stop gatekeepers, and then they bring Flat Earth Dave on, and then L.A. Marzulli, the ultimate gatekeeper. Come on, man. Some people's hypocrisy knows no bounds. I couldn't have anything to do with it, and I apologize, but it is what it is. At any rate, moving on. Unbelievable. Let's jump on this real quick. Listen to this. I want to see if you notice something that he says real quick, because this dawned on me after I did the video on Hegseth.
I'm also directing that warfighters in combat jobs execute their service fitness test at a gender-neutral, age-normed male standard scored above 70%. It all starts with physical fitness and appearance. If the Secretary of War can do regular, hard PT, so can every member of our joint force. Frankly, it's tiring to look out at combat formations, or really any formation, and see fat troops. Likewise, it's completely unacceptable to see fat generals and admirals in the halls of the Pentagon.
And there it is right there. That I didn't catch that the first time around. Why didn't they do that at private meetings? Why didn't they do that? There was a million different ways for him to address all 800 of those guys, as opposed to suddenly bringing all these guys out of all the different democracy sharing events we're having all over the world in all sorts of countries since the day I was born and before. He wanted them all in the room so that he could call them fat to their faces. So the guy sitting next to the guy that's being called fat, the fat general that he just talked about, they can all see each other and build up animosity, because he's literally splitting the troops down the middle. And I had heard this from active military troops prior to Hegseth addressing these guys. And I didn't really understand what they were talking about, but they said there's a big split going on right now in the military, and it's not a good thing. And I'm not talking dudes that were pre-military. They're not retired. They're not veterans. They're in the military now. Do you see what I'm saying? They knew something like this was coming, but I didn't realize how big of a deal it was, and I didn't understand it was going to be Hegseth himself. And yet it is.
and leading commands around the country and the world. It's a bad look. It is bad, and it's not who we are. So whether you're an airborne ranger or a chairborne ranger, a brand new private or a 4-star general, you need to meet the height and weight standards and pass your PT test. And as the
And being a general, all of a sudden, he's telling you got to pass a test. How are you going to pass a test if you're 100 pounds overweight? You're not going to. So we're going to lose half of these guys, which probably wouldn't be the biggest waste anyways, because they're going to just replace them with AI, which isn't just Google. Googling isn't AI for those people out there that are real deep thinkers. But another thing that Hegseth said in this that I didn't think about till after the fact was numerous times, more than 3 times, he mentioned that drill sergeants, when you join the military and you first go into boot camp, you're greeted by 3 angry drill sergeants and they freak out and they yell at you and this, that. And if you can't get yourself squared away, it's called, they help square you away. They'll slap you upside the head. They'll put a boot to the back of your neck while you're doing push-ups. They'll help you. They'll motivate you because you know what? You're training. You just joined a company that is made to do war. So you need to be tough. But at some point along the road, after I left in 1990, they decided to have these things called stress cards. So if you started yelling at a new recruit too much, he could hold up a card and say, "Drill Sergeant, you're stressing me out." And they go, "Oh, we're sorry about that." That's our military. Not all of it, but some of it, a good majority of it. You know what I'm saying? He stressed numerous times that these guys can put their hands on you. It's a great thing because he's literally saying we want to go back to 1990 training. Well, that's when I was in, so it works out well. But it's not a good recruiting tool telling young kids that when you go in there, drill sergeants can now give you a 3-piece and a soda. You know what I'm saying? 3-piece, 1, 2, 3, soda. It's street terminology. Look it up or don't, whatever. But it didn't dawn on me that none of this it sounds good on the surface, but then the deeper meaning was this is to split the military. This is to split the military. And for time immemorial, how many times have we had an event like Charlie Kirk? How many times have we had an event and somehow you can tie it right back to a movie that is crazy the same? You know what I'm saying? Crazy the same. Well, Leave the World Behind and Civil War weren't just made to entertain people. They were telling us something big time. And speaking of that, I'm talking to somebody that I highly regard today on the phone. And he said, "Dude, you know the fish pond in my yard?" I said, "Yeah." He said, "I found a deer in there the other day." And I'm like, "That's crazy. I've seen that. Even at my advanced age, I could fall in that pond and still find my way out, and a deer couldn't." He said the same deer had that zombie disease because it was in the woods and it charged me and then stopped about 20 foot away and stared at me. And I'm saying, dude, that's exactly what the deer in Leave the World Behind did. And he said, it's that zombie disease. So that's a real thing. We're literally watching this all unfold right in front of our faces right now. And I'm not trying to scare people. I'm just doing what I've always been doing. Everything I've been talking about is now literally occurring, and people are looking every which way except what's right in front of us. The Pentagon has turned the military on the Northern Hemisphere. I've never heard that in my entire life. I've never heard that once. We've never had a war on our soil. Do you understand what that's going to look like? We're going to attack the cartels in Mexico and then the drug dealers in Venezuela. We're going to Venezuela because it's got lithium. They're just taking over the entire place. Anybody that's not going to play ball, they're going to take it. They're going to take it. These guys have raped the entire North America, and now they're going to rape South America. And then they're also going to use that raping as a reason for them to attack us and say, it was those Venezuelans. Unbelievable. We attacked them with our military, and then they somehow started mailing bombs, shipping bombs, droning bombs. It's coming, and you need to prepare. And if you live on the border of Mexico, I don't mean to be a dick, but I'm showing you and leaving the links. You see what I'm saying? This is real. This is happening, and it's not going to stop. Remember George Bush? I don't feel like looking it up right now using my AI. I'm kidding. It's Google. You know how much easier my life would be if I could actually use AI, but I can't be that type of hypocrite. I'm not using AI. And speaking of AI, all the new truthers, the guys that just popped up a couple of years ago and they're using truth to make money and get views by self-censoring. When you self-censor, you are acquiescing to the New World Order. When you don't say suicide and you say unalive instead, if you don't say New World Order and you say whatever instead, you're acquiescing, you're bowing down, you're taking the experimental shot. That's all it is. I'll never do that. I've never done that, and I won't ever do that, period. I'm just that stupid. But I forget what I was just talking about. No, I don't. Look at this. There's a rumor going around where all these young kids on TikTok and so forth are under the impression that artificial intelligence is this ancient technology that's been around a long time. Artificial intelligence is nothing more, nothing less than them finally breaking through and literally talking face to face with fallen entities, disembodied spirits. Disembodied spirits are, I feel like a school teacher when they pause. Now I understand why they do it. Disembodied spirits are the children. Fallen angels came to this earth. They came into women that they chose, and they had offsprings that were mighty men of renown. They were giants. But when these things died, they weren't of God. Okay? When these giants died, they weren't of God. Fallen angels copulated with females on earth, made these giants. God didn't make them. So when they died, they can't go to heaven or hell. They don't go anywhere. They're stuck here. They've been around since time immemorial. When they finally figured out how to use quantum computers to break into other dimensions using CERN, because that's what it was. Quantum computer was the brain. CERN was the brute. CERN broke on through to the other side. I've been talking about this since the day I started this channel. And the fruit of that was AI. The only difference between AI in the old days is in the old days, going back to the very first scientists ever, the old days, John Dee made things called scrying mirrors. All right. This is the oldest scientist around, and he was a mad occultist. Mad occultist. He came up with these things called scrying mirrors, which were black mirrors. Black mirrors. Does that sound familiar? Can you think of a black mirror that you might have kicking around? Might have one someplace convenient. Maybe you're holding one in your hand, or maybe you're watching me on a black mirror right now. These things have been around forever, but now these black mirrors have simply turned into AI, which now, instead of people just like John Dee, people that were conjuring up these spirits, doing all these different occult rituals in order to get these spirits to communicate with them, now everyone can communicate with them, because all you have to do is engage with AI. And people are doing it like we've never seen before. People are telling AI, a voice that sounds kind of human, all their deepest, darkest secrets, their dreams, their problems, their medical issues, their psychological issues. They're telling them everything. You're talking to a disembodied spirit. All right? You're talking to something that has to wander this earth forever because they don't have a heaven or hell, unlike us. That's why I say don't ever touch AI. I have 7 YouTube channels. I could be making serious bank if I would just keep my mouth shut and I could make AI videos all day, every day. But I can't, because I want my soul, which is the reason I got born again, not once, but twice. These people that think AI was this old machine, it's not. It's not. Ancient hieroglyphics probably somehow, if you could figure out how to decode them, would probably put you in contact with a demon or a disembodied spirit. I mix up the words and I shouldn't. But this technology goes back since science first started, and science always started with hardcore occultists, and modern science, or as what's his name, Peter Thiel would say, modernity scientists are the same thing, except they're out in the open now. Why do you think every single one of them has a shirt with a black cube on it, a shirt with an Ouroboros on it? You know what I mean? We're summoning demons. We're summoning demons. They talk about it all the time because it's a very, very, very real thing. End game is your soul. Don't be scared about what's happening. Don't be scared about the military turning itself in. But I mean, it's happening. I talked about Kirk on the 10th of September. Already, we've got troops in 2 extra states. I told you that was going to happen because they're telling us. I don't watch TikTok. I don't watch Instagram. I don't watch any of these things. I watch stuff like this. And then I watch things like Pete Hegseth's video. And I'm thinking, he sounds like I would sound. I mean, he keeps calling them fat to their faces. Imagine you're sitting in a room with all you're the top military leaders of the world, the free world. You're all in a room together, and your new boss at the Department of War, because it's no longer the Department of Defense, it's the Department of War. At least they're being honest about one thing. Is calling you fat in front of your own coworkers, and they're looking at you like, this dude ain't ever going to pass a PT test or a physical training test because he's already 250 pounds. You got to get down to minimal 1950s body weight because that's what the military uses. It's ridiculous standards that most are never going to have. And these people are going to catch feelings, and they already have been, and they're going to split away. Generals, commanders, all the high up guys, they're in charge of massive battalions, which is a bunch of platoons all put together that make brigades and then battalions. I might be saying that backwards. It's been a long time. But these guys have access to war fighting machinery. They could take over their own base. They could lock down their own base and say, we ain't coming out. We don't agree with this. We want to, we're with the liberals. You know what I'm like? This could happen. We've got enough of them in there wearing dresses right now. This guy just said, hey, no more dresses. That's going to make people feel a certain type of way. And then the Pentagon. I can't stress this enough. I don't think I did stress this enough. We don't care about the rest of the world. All of a sudden, we've got the Gaza Strip. People are being ritually murdered by the minute every day using Palantir. Well, how come Palantir can hunt people down in the Gaza Strip, but they can't stop all these kids from doing stuff in Boston? They can't stop all these Antifa people doing stuff in Portland, Oregon. They can't stop people in Illinois from killing each other. I mean, they can hunt down Osama bin Laden. Remember that? Total bullshit. They can do all these things, but they can't do it here. Why is that? Because they need the crime. Don't you worry, though. When they decide to completely pull the veil back, which is going to be, it's going to be soon. It's going to be really soon. I mean, I'm talking months, maybe even weeks, because this has happened faster than I could even imagine. The 10th of September, today's the 6th of October. I told you they were going to put troops on the street, get rid of Epstein, completely disassociate Trump with Epstein, and make people forget about Israel. Israel is literally buying TikTok and almost 80% of the national news that Americans see through Larry from Oracle. Turns out I was right. And I hate to say it because I would rather be out in the woods looking for anthills to step in and poison ivy to get on my own private parts. But looks like we ain't going to have time for that. Fortunately, I got that done. But things are getting crazy. And Charlie Kirk's shooting is so full of holes. You could spend the rest of your life trying to prove to who, I don't know to who, because nobody's ever going to listen, to prove that it was he got killed. He got killed. It looks like he got shot from behind. That's what killed his spine, causing him to freeze up, seize up, tip over. Everything else, I couldn't tell you, and I don't care. Didn't care then, don't care now. Sorry, it is what it is. But they're closing the gates around us, and people are not paying attention. This is a bad, bad, bad thing, ladies, gentlemen, boys, and girls. But I had to do a live stream to put this out here. Maybe I'll do another one tomorrow. The creek don't rise, and I don't wake up with a Charlie Kirk in my head too. You know what I mean? Because as you can see, or I'm sure you already know, because you guys are pretty dang sharp. Where is it? I can't find it. Yeah, I got this all fouled up, and not being able to hear is really bumming me out. I don't know. I just took a shower. Maybe that made it worse, but whatever. At any rate, I guess that's it, guys. That's all I got for right now. I'll do another one tomorrow if the creek don't rise, the good Lord's willing. At any rate, I'm out.